This is a list of 25 tips for the tomb after the patch where they nerfed the hand cannon. So we'll cover some new ways that you can still absolutely insta-kill bosses, you can get the Easter egg done much more easily, and you can stop dying. So let's get started. Number 1, stop pack-a-punching your gun. I know it sounds crazy, but hear me out, because your default assumption when you play a zombies map is that you're maybe going to buy 1 or 2 perks, like you're going to buy Jug maybe you're going to buy something like Speed Cola, but then pretty soon after that, you're going to be thinking about getting to pack-a-punch ASAP and getting to PAP Tier 1. But this map flips that whole thinking on its head, and it's actually a bad idea to do it. So instead, when you first teleport to the Dark Ether Nexus, you need to look into the sky and look for a rock that has a little sparking effect on it, and if you shoot that, 5 rocks will then start to orbit in the sky above you. 4 of the rocks are pretty easy to spot, but 1 of them moves a bit slower than the others and it's a bit smaller, so just make sure you spot that too. And you then need to shoot all 5 rocks so that they all become stationary at the same time, and as you do this, you'll hear an ascending tone, and then once the 5th rock is shot, you'll get yourself a free ether crystal, saving you those first 5k points, and you'll also get a free ammo mod. You'll get a free cryo freeze. So if you save that 5k, that's either a free perk for you a bit later in the game, or that's a significantly quicker setup for PAP Tier 2, and that'll mean that you're shredding anything that walks into the map at those early to mid rounds. Now, doing that also and getting Cryo Freeze sets you up perfectly to get yourself a free weapon rarity upgrade. You need either Cryo Freeze for this, or you need the Ice Staff, because you need to be able to freeze something. And you're then going to come to these waterfalls, which are on either side of the green portal inside the Dark Ether. And if you shoot both of those waterfalls, they'll freeze over, and you'll get yourself a free ether tool in the sort of middle podium area. Now, some people will say to you, you should absolutely wait to do this Easter egg until rounds 21 onwards, because that way you get a gold wrench from the rewards instead of a purple one. So you get gold rarity on your gun, and that saves you the 5,000 salvage having to go from purple to gold manually. However, I think that if you're struggling in any way on the map, it's actually a better idea to get purple rarity sooner, and then you can just pay the 5,000 salvage later in the game to go from purple to gold, because you've actually got a gun that does good damage. Like, it's not going to be a pain in the ass to get to round 21. So I actually think either is a viable option here, but it is only going to give you blue rarity if you do it before round 11, so I'd say the sweet spot is definitely somewhere round 11 onwards. So let's say you've bought your Jug, maybe you've got yourself some decent weapon rarity and pack-a-punch level, etc. Now it's time to get some free perks. The first way to do this is actually to dig for perks. So if you walk around the map and find yourself a shovel, which you can always find in fixed spawns, such as just here, you can then go to the dig sites on the map and you can run around and dig all of those up, and they'll respawn every couple of rounds and they give you random rewards. And one of the rewards that you can get is free perks. You can also, in the Dark Ether, hold your melee button down on these little mushroomy things, and that will spawn in a couple of colored parasites that you can take out that give you scaled loot rarity depending on how long you let the mushroom grow for. And this is a really great way to get purple weapons for free, because those are pretty common rewards from these. And so as a second gun, like as not your primary gun, but just as a second one, this is a great way to get geared up fast. And you can also get free perks from them as well. But just bear in mind, if you just shoot the mushrooms, they're just going to give you salvage. So you need to hold your melee button down on them, and that's the way to successfully let the bugs out. Another way to get free perks is from this Easter egg. So you're going to come into this room with either a Molotov or napalm burst on your gun, and you need to light one of these bowls on fire with it. And if you do just use a Molotov, that's great news, because you'll then get a free Molotov from the bowl, and so you can use that molly to light the next bowl, and that will give you another molly, and you can light the next bowl, etc. And once you've lit them all up, you'll get a free perk. Now, I know some people have been having trouble with the difficulty of the lockdowns in this map, but thankfully, I've got a couple of tips here actually that will make those easier for you. Number 1 is you're not actually locked in to the lockdown. It's not really even a lockdown. It's just a sort of kill trial, I guess. So if you're struggling, if you're dying or whatever, you can literally just leave the area. And most of the time when you do this, it keeps your progress. So even if you go to the next round, you can just come back and then continue the lockdown where you were. But you might respond to me there and say, okay, well, those lockdowns aren't the problem. The main problem I'm having is defending the Ice Staff. And there are a few ways to make this easier. Number 1 is you could do the free ray gun Easter egg. For this, we're going to be doing all the digging that we were doing before with the shovels we can find around the map, but we're going to make sure that we buy Death Perception first. And with that perk, once you've dug up enough dirt piles, you'll find 3 green gems. You need to hold square on each one to pick it up, and then you need to deposit the gems into this statue, kill the stuff that spawns in, and you'll get yourself a free ray gun. And the great news about the ray gun is it's got really good splash damage, which makes defending the ice staff a lot easier. However, if you don't want to do that, there is an alternative way to get it done 100% of the time, even in solo. So first of all, the purple auraed zombies are the ones that are important here. Regular zombies actually don't matter. They're just going to attack you, but the purple aura ones are going to be the ones that attack the staff, and they're the ones that actually charge the challenge and get you to completion. And bear in mind, parasites can be purple as well. But if you just hoard up regular zombies and then try to shoot all the purple ones, you're going to end up with no new purple zombies spawning, because you do need to be continuously killing your horde as well in order to get them to spawn. So one way to make it very easy is to put Energy Mine on with the extra charge augment and then also the turret major augment. And then you can place 2 turrets down at the platform to defend the staff, and you can just hoard your normal zombies away from the platform a little bit. And that way the turrets will take out all the purple zombies for you, and they'll just continue kind of to plink away at the horde, and you can just focus on survival. And you don't even need to shoot your gun necessarily, because the turrets last for about 40 kills each. So give this a try if you're struggling, and you should be able to wipe through the challenge pretty damn fast. You just need purple kills, that'll fill it up, and then it will complete. There are a lot of special enemies and elite enemies in this map. It's a really good idea to make sure you're using the correct ammo mod. So if you're fighting mimics, you can use brain rot or cryo freeze. If you're fighting doppelgasts, you can use light mend. And if you're fighting amalgams, dead wire and shadow rift are the ones to go for. And if you put the big game augment on some of those ammo mods as well, that's going to mean that it's going to do damage to elites as well as specials. So you'll be able to take stuff down a lot quicker that way. This means if you're trying to do the blood sacrifice in the map and you're struggling with it, you can take those mimics down a lot more easily if you've got cryo on with big game. And similarly for the doppelgasts, whack on light mend and you're good to go. But why stop there at 1 ammo mod on your gun when you could actually be putting on 2 or even 3 ammo mods all at the same time? So the first way to get multiple ammo mods is to use the ASG with Dragon's Breath. And if you do that, you'll be able to get this fire damage tick on all of your shots, which is really powerful for ad clear. It's really, really effective for that. And it can be combined with any ammo mod that you want to buy from the machine. And that way you get 2 at once. And this is just a really fun strat to build. So I really highly recommend giving it a try at some point, but it can get even better. And so to go from 2 ammo mods to 3, we're going to use the Dragon's Breath on the ASG, and then we're going to put on an ammo mod from the machine, and I would usually go with Dead Wire with Lightning Strike because it's just so fun to use. But then as you can see in this clip here, my ASG is also doing light elemental damage somehow, and the reason for it is if you have the reactive Mother Clucker blueprint for the ASG, that also gets a passive light mend damage boost against doppels. So you could be fighting a doppel and lightning strike it while burning it, while also getting the super effective light damage on it. And yes, this is a bundle, unfortunately, just for this extra ammo mod, but you can still get 2 if you just go Dragon's Breath and whatever one you buy from the machine. But let's say you're sick and tired of using ammo mods. Maybe you just got a vendetta against them for some reason. I don't know why. But you still obviously want to take down some of those annoying elite enemies. Like maybe the amalgams just keep on sucking you and you can't get rid of them. And if that's happening, I'd recommend giving this a try. Put on Energy Mine, which I know sounds crazy, but hear me out here. And we're going to combine that with the Elemental Pop perk, but combined with the Augment Vulnerabine, which increases enemy elemental weakness damage. And when you've got both of those things active at the same time and you pop an Energy Mine out, it's going to do like quadruple electric damage to the amalgam. And because amalgams are weak to electric, it's going to basically be insta-kills. Like, it's super effective. And I know you guys have probably been sleeping on Energy Mine because I have too, but it actually has a ton of uses that you might not already be aware of. And one of them is a new way of getting to high rounds in Black Ops 6 Zombies, which is totally different to the other strat that everybody runs. So you've probably seen the mutant injection strat used hundreds of times, right? But if you put on Energy Mine, you can actually change up the meta completely, and this might actually be a lot more fun if you're looking for a way to mix up your gameplay a little bit. So to get to 100 plus without the mutant injection, whack on Energy Mine, put on the turret major augment, and then sit in this corner by stamina up. Then you're going to whack your Energy Mines down, and if you use extra charge, you can get more than 1 turret as well. And then you're going to use your charged ice staff, to just blast in front of you where the turrets are, and it's gonna shred everything. And then if things get too crazy, or you need a plan B, you need to get out, or whatever, is you're gonna wanna have monkey bombs on, not Casimir's, because Casimir's will get eaten by shock mimics, but monkey bombs won't be. And if you've got vulture aid on with the right augments, that'll mean that you can get your monkeys back pretty quickly as well. And so you can just chuck those down and reset however you need to reset. So give this a try in your games if you're looking for a fun way to get to around 100. And if you want a full strat video on it or something, just let me know with a comment. But for now, let's continue with the video. Now, one special enemy that I want to talk about for a second in particular is the shock mimic that is new to the tomb, because they disable Casimir's, decoys, shock charges. I don't think it actually applies to monkey bombs. I think monkeys are still okay. And they also disable underbarrels like the crossbow as well. So they're very annoying, and it means that if you're using a Cas as a get out of jail free card and you throw it and it disappears, you're basically toast. Like, it's gonna ruin your day. But the good news is that if you hit one of these shock mimics with a shock charge directly, you can stun them without destroying the shock charge, and that should give you a really easy opportunity to take them down. But also, a tip for these mimics is to just not trigger them in the first place. You're gonna start getting used to the spawn points for a lot of these mimics, and if you don't run over to them when they're an item, they're not gonna jump scare you. And so as you play, start noticing, oh, okay, that random pap crystal on the floor over there, that's not real, that's a mimic, so I'm just not gonna walk over there. Like, the easiest way to take these mimics down is to not need to take them down in the first place. Now, we'll come back to boss type stuff in a second, but first, you can revive with the alt fire on the upgraded staff, just in case you weren't aware. You pull out the back side of the staff and then fire it. That's Sekhmet's Vigor, and it will stand people back up on their feet. Now, one thing I've seen a lot of people having trouble with is the symbols step with the door, where you step through the door and you go to the Dark Ether and it spawns you in the middle of the air and you drop to your death and die. But luckily, there's an easy way to tell in advance if you're gonna die. So basically, if you check the floor in front of the portal after it opens, if there's 3 lit up symbols on the ground, you can teleport through safely. You're all good. But if there's no symbols on the ground, do not go through the portal. You need to then wait until the next round for the portal to reset. And if it doesn't reset, you'll then need to portal back to the Dark Ether. But if this is happening in the first place, it means you're shooting the wrong symbols. So make sure that you've shot all 3 rocks in the Dark Ether, you've waited for them to come down, and then you've checked what all the symbols are, and only then do you shoot the symbols on the back of the door. Now, there is a sort of solution for if you're having trouble to see the symbols because the textures are blurry or pixelated, and this might not be what you expect. So, due to the game being online, right, it's an online-only game, some textures are streamed, okay? They're literally downloaded to your console or your PC as you play. So, if you turn your texture quality down, you'll actually be able to stream the overall textures faster because it will require less download speed on your part, and that might mean that the textures, even if lower quality, are actually more visible. So give that a go. Also, if the symbols are just still not clear to you, turning your FOV down will mean that your overall view is more zoomed in, and it's basically like having a sight on your weapon, except it's built into your character's face. So that's an option. If you're struggling, you could just turn the FOV down and it'll get you a little bit closer to them. Or you could follow this graphic and match the rock itself with the symbol. And I believe the spawns are fixed, so this should work for you every time if you just want to do it via the rock itself. Now, another tip here, yet another one for these rocks, is if you're dying, right, stepping out of those portals, you can just use the stamina up augment called Freefaller to avoid fall damage altogether, and that way there's never a risk of you falling to your death. Next, another Easter egg step that people keep getting stuck on is the purple orb. It keeps despawning and doing weird stuff, but whatever the weirdness is, it's causing you to fail the step. So for this, number 1, all players have to stay close to the ball. And that means that all players need to be in the Dark Ether when you're doing this. You can't have someone just roaming around in the spawn or something. Number 2, if you fail, you can just try again the next round, that's fine. Number 3, you don't actually have to kill all the zombies in the area to progress the ball. You need a couple to kick it forwards and keep it moving, because it will pause at certain points, but you do not need like 100 kills or something in the area. And number 4, you can freeze the special enemies like the Amalgams, for example, with the ice staff, and you'll still be able to finish the challenge here. You don't have to kill them to progress. So if just freezing them is easier, do that and focus on surviving any other way and making sure that the ball stays safe. And if you escort it all the way, you should complete the challenge successfully. Now, once you've done that and you've got your charged ice staff ready to go, you might be a bit frustrated to see that there's no real obvious indication for when it's charged and ready to fire a charged shot. And the only way that I've been able to find an indicator for this is if you look at this crystal on the staff that I'm pointing to here, that will begin to move back and forth while charging the shot. And if you shoot as soon as the crystal starts thumping, it's only going to fire one shot. So what you need to do is shoot after it thumps a few times, and then you'll get the charge shot every time. Just don't do it on the first thump. Now, for the trials step of the Easter egg, I've got a couple of quick tips for you here. The first is just how many charges of things you actually need to get through the steps. So for the yellow trial, you just need 10 energy to finish. But some people have reported that if they pick up an energy ball after they've picked up all 10 already, they're stuck with it in their hand. And I've seen people saying, oh, I had to die to get rid of it. But you actually don't. You can fix it by going to the dark ether and placing the dark energy down and moving on to the next step. And I believe that will actually solve this for you. And you can just continue the Easter egg from that point as you were. For the green trial, you just need 6 Doppelgast kills. There's nothing else special to that one. And for the red trial, if you're having trouble, you could use the insta-kill power-up, which is outside to the left of Quick Revive on top of the rocks here. And that'll mean that you kill the Amalgam a lot faster. And you could combine that with Deadwire to be even faster as well. And the trick really is just to kill the purple zombies ASAP so they don't make the Amalgam immune. And also a weird glitch pro tip thing here is to avoid using Ether Shroud during the challenge because it will cause the Amalgam to die and spawn a new one in for some reason. So just be careful of that. Now, while you're doing all this stuff, if the game is not letting you pick up the dark energy and bring it back to the dark ether, that's because you're on a vermin round. I don't know why it doesn't work on a vermin round, but you need to flip over to a zombie round, and then it will let you pick it up, and you'll be able to continue the Easter egg. Now, as you're doing the trials, you'll also notice that your ice staff only has 3 shots on Sekhmet's Vigor, the alt fire, and you need 4 shots to shoot all of the trials. So once you get to shot number 3, if you want a max ammo, you could just look out here on this little kind of window thing outside the entrance to the red portal. And if you shoot there, you'll get a free max ammo and you'll be able to progress. Now, while you're doing all this and you're starting to get ready for boss fight in the map, you might want gold armor. And the blood sacrifice is really tricky, but if you do it late in your game, it's a lot easier. And I do have a couple of tips for you. Number 1, if you do buy blue or purple armor, it's going to make your life a lot easier because you'll be able to refresh your armor inside the fight itself. And doing that's going to be really effective because you'll have no health, but you will have all your armor. And so you can eat a couple of the ranged attacks from the enemies you're fighting, and it just goes to your armor. So that's going to not be a problem if you've got more armor, right? And that means that rather than using Ether Shroud for this, it can also be pretty smart to use Frenzied Guard to get yourself max armor while you're taking down all the enemies. Another thing I'd recommend is using the charged upgraded staff and shooting that as the ground as you run around to try and catch the enemies in the vortex. Another thing that you could do if you're in co-op is have one person on Frenzied Guard to pull zombies, but then have another with an energy mine turret to fire for you, which will do a lot of damage. And when you're doing the mimics, I'd also say that it could be quite a smart idea to use a temporal gift gobblegum combined with that insta-kill that we were talking about a little earlier in the video. So the way that you would trigger this remotely is you would throw a C4 at the insta-kill power-up, and you're going to want to do that from a specific spot. So if you jump and throw it into this little cavern, that will do it usually. Sometimes it won't work for you, but if you get the alignment right, it should work fine. And then if you've got temporal active and you trigger your C4 during the blood sacrifice, it will spawn the insta-kill in, and you'll be able to grab it and get a 60-second insta-kill, which will mean that the bosses get melted very fast. And if you do this and you've still got time left over, you could run and quickly do the second blood sacrifice straight away just to get yourself as much usage out of the insta-kill as possible. Next, we've got some boss fight tips because this is probably the hardest task to complete in all of Black Ops 6 Zombies so far. I very highly, very strongly recommend Ether Shroud for this, specifically with Group Shroud and Extra Charge. Both of those augments are going to be pretty essential, especially if you're in co-op. I would also recommend Vulture Aid with Parting Gift for more Wonder Weapon ammo. And you could potentially also use the augment to get extra equipment as well. That might be a nice way to just have some extra Casimirs during the fight, but bear in mind, those will be destroyed by shock mimics if they are spawned in. And remember, to get Vulture Aid, you either need to get it for free or you need to get it from Wonder Fizz in the Dark Ether on round 25 onwards. I think PhD Slider with Tribologist is really good for maneuverability in the fight, so I highly recommend that. And for Gobblegums, I'd say that Power Keg, Shields Up, and Insta-Kill are all great, and they're all lower rarity, so that's nice. You don't have to just spam Perkaholics for this. Now, as you probably already already know, Sally and Fourth, the Mustang and Sally in this game, are not good for the boss because explosives do nothing to it, so don't use those, and don't use wonder weapons either. And instead, you're going to want to use a gun that really does high bullet damage. So anything that is gold rarity PAP tier 3 to start with is a good pick. And if you want something OP, at least right now, the ASG is amazing. So I highly recommend using that, and I've got a separate video with my ASG build linked in the description and in the corner of the screen. Inside the fight itself, for the flow, I would say start off with the first mirror just standing in the center of the arena and shooting the ice staff at the ground to create vortexes so that you don't take any damage whatsoever, nothing can hit you, and you just need to be crouched or lying down under the laser so you don't get hit by it. Then, when the artifact is vulnerable, you can just fire a charged shot down and shoot it without using an ether shroud to begin with, and you should be able to take it out pretty easily. Then, for the next stage, you can just fire the staff at the ground again, and when the boss becomes vulnerable, there'll be 2 artifacts this time, and you can actually destroy both artifacts, and that's going to do a bit of extra damage to the boss, making your life a little easier later. Now, in those early phases, I really recommend you just don't bother going up top. I think that it's basically bait. You're just going to die to the beam. It's going to end up hitting you, and it's going to be really annoying. And instead, once you start getting onto the phases where there's boss zombies spawning in, being downstairs is the way to go, in my opinion. And if you're being smart about this, you're going to want to avoid using your shroud to shoot the sentinel artifact if possible, because then you can use your shroud to take out the special zombies instead. So let's say you've got your whole team, or just you in solo, downstairs behind one of those walls, and there's one of the supercharged doppelgasts running towards you. You can shroud, take it down, and then you'll potentially still have a little shroud time left over to shoot the sentinel artifact, or at that point you could throw a Casimir or something, and then when you destroy the artifact, you're then going to want to work on taking out all the other zombies in the area to start building shroud charge up again, so that by the time the next boss zombie has spawned in, you've got another shroud charge ready to go. And that's why supercharged on the speed cola augments is a good pick, and anything else that's going to charge your field upgrade faster is going to be a really helpful addition here. And I think another thing to really kind of hammer home is that the supercharged zombies are going to essentially insta-kill you if you don't have any armor or you don't have Jug, for example, right? They will one-tap you. But the other stuff in the arena isn't going to one-tap you, right? And so I think it's a really, really good idea when you've got all that other stuff spawning in and when you've got those boss zombies to just focus on being as far away from the boss zombie as possible at all times. And sure, if you take a hit or two from other things, that's not a big deal. You just need to create distance between you and the boss zombie. Never, ever get complacent and just stand there shooting into it thinking, oh, it'll die in a second and I'll just tank it for a moment and then I'll be able to shoot the shield. Don't do that. Just keep your distance at all times and use the other zombies in the arena to get your ether shroud charges back. And then you can use your shroud charge to take out the boss if you need to and get the artifact destroyed. So those are a ton of tips for the boss and the overall Easter egg. If you've got any extra tips that you want to share with people, leave a comment and I'll shout out anyone that we feature in the next video in part 2. And otherwise, I hope you found it useful. Subscribe if you did, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.